it's late, but as promised, we're going to do the 250 subscriber draw. And the prizes are, isn't that better? Yeah. A one-off, hand-drawn, hand-painted koi fish done by my reasonably talented partner. She likes doing her little paintings. She's done a couple for people, a couple of bits and pieces for other people. Yeah, keeps her amused of an evening. But yeah, I quite like it. She might do me one day. You never know. And then prize number 2, although it's only going to one person, I'm not picking 2 people. The NT Labs paramedic kit. Handy little thing if you've got a fish that's knocked itself spawning or has an ulcer or some raised scales or has just generally knocked itself or wounded itself. You know, sometimes a fish can find something to rub against and cut itself. But it has 6 things in it. It has a bottle of Koi Calm, which is a clove oil based sedative. Very, very good. I use it all the time. I quite like it. It's got some stuff called ulcer swab, which is a wound cleaner and disinfectant. It's a little tub with a little brush in it. You just give it a wipe over with that. Very similar to sort of Tamidine, although it's not. I don't think it's iodine based, but it has a very similar effect. It's a disinfectant basically. And then you have propolis, which is an antiseptic, waterproof plaster, if you like, and I believe it's derived from honey. I seem to remember hearing that information somewhere. I stand to be corrected, as always. And then it has a pair of gloves and some swabs, cotton buds basically. It's a handy little box just to keep tucked away somewhere, just in case you need it. Obviously the Koi Calm comes in handy for all manner of things, from just checking your fish over to measuring to taking scrapes. You know, if you're not confident taking scrapes, you can stick a few drops of that in and just let the fish chill out a little bit. Your scrapes may not show things being alive, because I believe it can affect some things being alive, but you will certainly see that they're there. And if they're dead after you use Koi Calm, the best thing to do is try and do a scrape them without using it to see if there's anything living on another fish. Again, I stand to be corrected on that one, but as far as I'm aware, if you use Koi Calm, it can affect the parasite's life. Don't dump a load in your pond because you'll affect your fish's life as well. So yeah, that's the prizes, and there we go. On about the pond. As some of you know, I've had an absolute nightmare with my pond of late, with possible bacterial infections, and I've been chatting to all sorts of people about what it could potentially be, and getting nowhere fast, but I seem to have had a bit of a result. Well, I'm not quite sure what happened then. The camera just turned itself off. So where was I? Oh yeah, the pond. We've had all sorts of issues. Raised scales, ulcers, fish dying. Thought it was mainly bacterial. We found a few issues that could be bacteria traps. And just tried everything. Tried every treatment in the book, done all the scrapes, found nothing apart from one tiny baby fluke on 5 fish. So I don't think fluke was the issue. No trick, no Costia that I could see, nothing. So I have been racking my brains. The pond clarity's gone to nothing because I've disturbed everything. The filters are being cleaned every day while it's dragging bits of muck out. I've been hoovering like you wouldn't believe, which with a vacuum that runs for 30 seconds and then stops, discharges, runs for 30 seconds or thereabouts, stops and discharges, is not great fun. After an hour or two of that, you're starting to feel a little bit bored, shall we say. And with a pond my size, it takes more than a couple of hours to do. So then of course you leave it, everything settles, and then you've got to do it all again. So it's a slow process of gradually dragging everything out. Bottom drains are working well, they're doing what they can, but it doesn't really work when stuff is trapped in areas and it's so caked up that it just can't drag it. So I'm having to give it a helping hand. The filter can only do so much. So I was sat there the other day and I had a chat with Paul Smith, I had a chat with Vince at Twisted Koi, I had a chat with Davey, Black Country Koi bloke, and we've all had a couple of issues apart from Paul. Paul has masses of fish and big fish in a very small holding tank while his pond's being built, and he seems to be the only one that's not having any issues. Lord knows how, but there you go. He's doing something very right with an easy bod and a few blue barrels and pretty basic filtration really, but it's working really well. So I was talking to Davey, and obviously he's having problems with his pond, and that's been ongoing for a couple of years. Mine seems to have been ongoing for about 18 months now, since I lost all my dad's fish, apart from one. Vince has had a couple of issues, nothing too major, but I know he's had a couple of head scratching moments this season already. I just sat there and I thought, well, I've tried everything. I tried malachite and formalin, I tried formalin and everything you can think of. I've PP'd the pond, I've chloramine T'd it, I've used basically Alprex, which is aquaflavin and malachite. I've used aquaflavin on its own, I've used malachite on its own, I've used everything you could think of. I've almost got into blind treating, which I've never done, but I've almost got into blind treating to cover every single base I can think of, and nothing has made any difference, nothing at all. So I sat there the other day and I thought, what would the old man have done? And he's not been around for about 6 years. I thought, well, what the old man would have done when he'd gone into the garage, and he always kept a pallet of dishwasher salt in the garage. He always used to buy it in bulk, just dishwasher salt, nothing special. And if any of the fish were showing signs of anything, he'd go and get a bag of dishwasher salt, and he'd bang a bag of dishwasher salt in. Now, I'm not advocating anyone goes and uses dishwasher salt before you all jump on me from a great height. And if after a week it didn't make any difference, he'd bang another bag of dishwasher salt in. And he'd do that every week until the fish started to turn around. And he always used to say, you can't beat a bit of salt. I was thinking, well, I've tried everything else, and salt's the oldest trick in the book. I mean, let's face it, most of the Japanese farms use it, and you listen to Koi Talk and Ricky Stoddart, He's a great advocate of salt. And I know it's the great debate in koi keepers, should you salt your pond or not? And I can remember a couple of years ago saying I was going to salt the pond, so no, don't do it, don't do it. You can't use half your medications if you do that. Well, I've used most of them, and none of them have worked. So I've only really got one left, and that's salt. So I got hold of Paul and I said, Paul, while you're sort of in Boston, can you grab us 4 bags of salt? He went, what? I said, grab us 4 bags of salt from the fishmongers, because he was coming over. So he wasn't going into Boston, but his wife was. So he duly sent his wife off to grab 100 kilos of salt. And it's funny, really, because we were in the Koi Talk Live, and we were talking about salt. I think maybe that sparked something in the back of my mind, and I said to Ricky, I said, so where would you start salting? Because I'd been and had a look online, and a couple of the sites said start salting at 0.1%, and I thought that seems incredibly low. So I said to Ricky, I said, where would you start salting? 0.1? He went, no, it's pointless. 0.3. So my pond is 25,000 litres. That's 25 kilos of salt for 0.1. So I've got to add 75 kilos of salt to my pond to bring it up to 0.3. That's a lot of salt. So I added 25 kilos there and then when Paul turned up with it. And then I added another 25 kilos a bit later on. And then I did the other 25 kilos the next day. Now this was Wednesday of last week, and we're now at Monday. So I've got sturgeon in the pond, and sturgeon love salt, so that's not a problem. You know, sturgeon will almost go salt water. They're very much a sort of brackish type of fish. And I thought, well, it can't get any worse. So 75 kilos of salt went in, dropped in the salt meter, and it was 0.33. My water out of the tap is 0.03, so that is bang on 0.3 for 75 kilos, absolutely bang on. So my pond is bang on 25,000 litres. Now we are less than a week after the treatment, and I have a quite large, I say quite large, he's quite large for a lot of the fish in the pond. Bear in mind I've got 75 centimetre fish in there. He must be about 60-65 centimetre. Used to be a tancho, lost his spot, he's just got a little red smudge on his head now. And he had a patch of raised scales, probably 2 inches round. And I'd taken him out, and I pulled scales, and I treated it, and I'd done everything with it that you should. And it just didn't seem to be healing up. It was, if anything, it was getting slightly worse, and he was getting more and more stressed, and he was getting red scales down his lateral line, and then red scales started appearing on the other side, and I'm just going, oh, what's going on? Well, we're what? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 days. Well, no, you wouldn't count Wednesday, because we're Wednesday in, so say 5 days they've been in salt properly for. It's virtually gone. He's white again, all down his sides. He still has the 2-inch patch, and you can still see it, mainly because I've pulled scales. But it's not bright red. Now, anyone who argues about salt from now on, I'm not even joking. It's just, If you've got a problem in a pond and you can't put your finger on it, I think from my point of view, from what's happened to me in the last week, because I thought I was going to lose this fish, I thought it was going to go belly up. Salt might be a good answer for you. It might be a good solution. It might. It's certainly worked for me. And I know it's the great debate, should you salt or shouldn't you? Yes, if I need to use FMG, I've got a problem now because I've got salt in the pond. So I've got to dilute that salt out. And whatever anyone says, salt does not evaporate from your pond. I've heard people say that salt will disappear with evaporation. That is not what happens with salt. That's why you get the salt flats. Because they used to be saltwater lakes and all the water evaporated and left the salt behind. And that's why you get these great big expanses of crystalline salt crust. The only way of removing salt is to dilute it, and that means dumping a lot of water out of your pond and replenishing it with a lot of water. And that's the only way you get salinity down, is by dilution. Salt does not evaporate out of your pond. It will just increase in its intensity. So as water evaporates, it will go from 0.3 to 0.4 because there's the same amount of salt in less water. And the only way of removing it is to remove the water, top it up with fresh, dilute the amount of salt that's in the water. Now in Japan that's not so much of a problem because they just dump the entire contents of the pond and refill it at the same time, and they can do it in a matter of minutes. We're not quite that fortunate as the average koi keeper. We have to rely on angling water over a tap, so we can't refill the ponds very quickly. So if you dump out 50% of your water and 50% of your salt and then top it up with 50% water, you're still going to have quite a high salt content. And until you get that salt content right down to trace sort of 0.03 that you get out of the tap, you've got a problem with formalin. Formalin, I believe, when it mixes with salt, creates quite a nasty toxic substance. I'm not quite sure what it makes. I can probably go and look it up, and maybe I should have done before I did this video, but yeah, apparently it doesn't do your fish any good. That's the only one I know of a problem with. I'd be interested if anyone knows of any other treatments that there are problems with using salt with, because the only one I'm actually aware of is FMG or formalin on its own, and that is the main reason people kind of go, oh no, don't use salt. But as far as I'm aware, you can still use malachite on its own and other treatments, but I stand to be corrected. Maybe Vince at Twisted Koi may know. Davey, Black Country Koi bloke, any thoughts? Whether you can use Alprex and salt or any of the fluke treatments. The other good thing about salt is it does knock back fluke as well. In fact, it knocks back most parasites, because what it basically does is it draws the water out of them, causes them to collapse, and that's why it's so good for fish, because it equals the salinity of the inside of the fish to the outside, so the fish isn't fighting this osmosis effect so much, and it just gives the body a little bit of a rest and allows it to divert energy into healing, basically. But it stops the osmotic effect. And with a lot of parasites, I believe you get quite a good salt level in there. It does the opposite. It actually draws the moisture out of a lot of the parasites and causes them to almost shrivel up. That's how I understand it from a biological standpoint. I may be totally wrong, but that's how I understand it works for parasites. I stand to be corrected. I'm sure there's someone far smarter on biology than I am. But I think that's the way it knocks out parasites. So yeah, if anyone knows any other treatments that can't be used with salt, and categorically knows, not just a guess, but actually knows and knows the reason why. If anyone knows what the chemical is that salt and formalin combine to make, might even be formaldehyde, which you wouldn't really want your fish swimming around in formaldehyde. Or is formalin a form of formaldehyde? Not sure. I'd have to look at the chemical formula for it. Maybe someone can tell me before I can look it up. Anyway, that's me waffling. If you've got any comments on treatments that can't be used with salt, it'd be very good information, because obviously I've got salt in my pond and I don't want to chuck anything in that's going to cause toxins. I'm going to go and do some research myself. But the way things are, and the way things are looking, and the way my big ex-tancho is looking, I don't think I'm going to be chucking anything else in. Because at the moment, everything crossed, things are looking quite good on the fish front, which I'm really happy about. So, fish front, everything's going right. Just need to get the pond clarity back now. That's just going to take time, and keep sucking out the stuff that I've found trapped behind bits of liner and rocks and plants and things. I think it might take a little while, because there was some quite large lumps of soil behind there, which you can pull the bulk of it out, but you'll never get all of it, and it kind of floats around suspended, a bit like clay. Settles to the bottom a bit like clay, and then for weeks afterwards you've got that white powder all over the bottom of the pond, until the fish sort of start kicking up and the filters start pulling it out. So yeah, that'll take care of itself. That just needs me to run the pumps at full bore, keep flushing the filters out every day, get rid of the detritus, make sure there's a lot of water can flow through, and it will look after itself. So now you've listened to me waffle, on to the fun bit, the draw. So without further ado, I am going to nip down to the workshop where my main PC is, and I am going to bring up the good old YouTube comment picker, and we'll see who's won the painting and the paramedic kit. And when we find out who the winner is, in the description will be my email address. There will also be my email address in my bio as always, or you can go on www.skegnesspondsupplies.com, and there will be a phone number there that you can ring to get hold of me. Please not at 10 o'clock at night, at a reasonable hour, and I'll be happy to take down your details and post these out to you. And so long as you're in the UK, it will be totally free of charge postage. If you are international, then there will be, I'm afraid, a postage charge. International shipping has become quite expensive. However, the postage charge will be less than you would pay for a paramedic kit. So thank you everybody who entered. I believe there's is it 22 or 25 entries, but we'll let the YouTube comment picker decide exactly how many entries there are, and then the next giveaway will be at the 500. I'd quite like to get there because I'd like to be able to do community posts. That'd be very nice. And then from there it will be the big 1,000 if I ever get there. I can't believe 250 of you sit and listen to me waffle, but there you go. Without further ado, comment picker, good luck everyone, let's see who's won it. Right, ladies and gents, I'm doing this without a tripod today because I've left it up in the house, so it might be a bit shaky. There is the URL. We've selected 340. Unique comments 22. So we will now click on the start button, and this will tell us who has won. Mark, you are the winner. So what you need to do is email me skegnespond@hotmail.com. Link will be in my bio and in the description of this, and we will sort you out the NT Labs paramedic kit and the painting by my other half. Well done, fella. There you go. Better luck next time, everyone else. Thanks for entering.